The snow fell silently that evening, blanketing the city in a layer of soft white calm. Streetlights glowed amber, their warmth barely reaching through the cold that hung heavy in the air. Cars whooshed by occasionally, their headlights slicing through the curtain of snow. It was one of those nights where everyone hurried home, except one man and his little daughter. Daniel Carter, a man in his mid-30s, walked briskly along the icy pavement, holding the tiny gloved hand of his daughter, Emma. A self-made millionaire, Daniel was known in the corporate world for his intelligence, confidence, and cold practicality. But tonight, his sharp gaze softened every time he looked down at Emma, the only light left in his life after losing his wife 2 years ago. They had just left the Christmas market, where Emma insisted on buying a small red scarf for someone who might need it. Daniel had smiled at her innocence, never realizing that before the night ended, that scarf would mean everything. As they walked past a quiet park, Emma tugged at his hand suddenly. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice barely audible under the whistling wind. "What is it, sweetheart?" Daniel asked, bending slightly to her height. Emma pointed toward a snow-covered bench near the streetlight. Daniel squinted through the falling snow. A woman sat there, motionless, her head tilted slightly downward, her arms wrapped tightly around a bundle. "Daddy, why is she sleeping here?" Emma asked softly, concern filling her eyes. Daniel froze. It wasn't just a woman sleeping. It was a young mother, her face pale, her coat dusted with snowflakes, holding a baby wrapped in a gray blanket. Something inside Daniel stirred. He approached cautiously, the crunch of his shoes on snow echoing in the stillness. Kneeling down, he called out gently, "Ma'am. Are you all right?" No response. He leaned closer and saw the woman's lips trembling slightly, her breath weak. The baby in her arms let out a faint cry, alive, but cold. Daniel's pulse quickened. He quickly shrugged off his own overcoat and wrapped it around both of them. "Emma, stay back, honey," he said, his voice firm but calm. He touched the woman's cheek, it was freezing. "She's not sleeping," he muttered. "She's freezing." Without another thought, Daniel scooped both the woman and her baby into his arms. Emma followed closely, clutching her father's sleeve as they hurried toward his parked car nearby. Inside the car, Daniel turned up the heat, wrapping his scarf around the woman's shoulders. Emma sat in the back seat, holding the baby, her small arms trembling as she tried to comfort it. "Daddy, the baby's so cold," she said, tears filling her eyes. Daniel drove fast, faster than he had in years, heading straight to the nearest hospital. He didn't care about traffic lights or speed limits. The only thing that mattered was keeping them alive. At the hospital, doctors rushed the woman and her baby into the emergency ward. Daniel filled out forms, explaining what little he knew. He sat in the waiting area with Emma, the sound of medical equipment and rushing footsteps filling the hall. After what felt like hours, a nurse approached them. "She's stable now," she said kindly. She was suffering from hypothermia and exhaustion. "The baby is fine too, thanks to you, sir. You probably saved their lives." Daniel let out a long breath he didn't know he was holding. Emma smiled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. "Can we see her?" Emma asked. "Just for a moment," the nurse replied. They entered the small hospital room. The woman lay sleeping peacefully, her hair damp from melted snow. The baby rested in a cradle beside her, wrapped warmly in hospital blankets. Daniel stood silently by the bed. He couldn't help but wonder what led her to that frozen bench on such a night. Her face, though tired, carried a quiet kind of beauty, not of glamour, but of someone who had fought too hard for too long. The next morning, when she woke, Daniel was sitting nearby, sipping coffee. The woman blinked, confused. Where am I?" she murmured. "You're safe," Daniel said gently. "You were found outside last night. My daughter saw you. You were freezing." She tried to sit up, but he stopped her softly. "It's all right. You need rest." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I didn't know where else to go." Daniel shook his head. "No need to apologize. I'm just glad you and your baby are safe." Emma peeked from behind him and waved shyly. "Hi. I'm Emma. Your baby's really cute." the woman smiled faintly. Her name is Lily, she said. I'm Sarah. As the morning light streamed through the window, Daniel listened quietly as Sarah told her story. She had lost her husband in a car accident 6 months ago. Since then, she had struggled to find work while caring for Lily. When rent became impossible, she was forced to leave her apartment. The night Daniel found her, she had nowhere left to go. Daniel felt something twist inside him, a mix of sorrow and guilt. He had once believed money could fix anything. But sitting before him was proof that sometimes, people didn't need money, they needed compassion. When Sarah finished speaking, there was silence. Then Emma climbed onto the bed and gently placed the red scarf around Sarah's neck. It's yours now, she said softly. Mommy used to say scarves keep you warm inside too. Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks as she hugged Emma tightly. Daniel turned away, pretending to check his phone, but his eyes were wet too. Over the next few days, Daniel visited often, bringing warm clothes, food, and baby supplies. The hospital staff assumed Sarah was a relative, he never corrected them. He didn't know why, but he felt responsible, almost connected to her story in a way he couldn't explain. When Sarah was finally discharged, Daniel offered to drive her to a shelter. But as they stood by his car, Emma tugged at his coat again. Daddy, she whispered, can't they come home with us? Just for a little while. Daniel hesitated. He had spent years keeping his world controlled, safe, and predictable. But looking at Sarah holding her baby, shivering in the cold, he realized, maybe it was time to open his heart again. He smiled softly. All right, sweetheart. Just for a while. That while turned into days, then weeks. Sarah and Lily moved into the guest house behind Daniel's mansion. At first, she insisted on helping with chores to repay his kindness. But soon, she and Emma became inseparable, baking cookies, decorating the house, laughing. For the first time in years, Daniel heard real laughter echo through his halls again. One evening, as snow fell outside again, Daniel stood by the fireplace watching Emma and Sarah play with Lily. His heart felt lighter, his world warmer. When Sarah caught his gaze, she smiled. You've given us more than a home, she said quietly. You've given me hope again. Daniel looked at her, truly looked, and realized how much she had changed his life too. Months later, on a spring morning, Daniel walked through the garden, where Emma was showing Lily how to chase butterflies. Sarah joined him, her smile soft and radiant. You know, Daniel said, I used to think wealth was measured in numbers and properties. But it turns out, real wealth is this. Family. Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. And love, she whispered. He smiled. Yes. And love. Sometimes, life brings strangers together for a reason. That night, one small act of kindness changed 4 lives forever. Daniel learned that even a millionaire's world can be cold without compassion, and Sarah found that even in her darkest hour, hope can arrive in the form of a little girl's innocent question. Daddy, why is she sleeping here? And so, 2 broken hearts healed each other, not through money, but through love, faith, and humanity. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories that remind us, kindness is the greatest gift of all.